I feel very proud to be KHOJA when I travel around the world and I meet other communities. People always look up to us, and they say that the way you identify the issues of your community and come up with a solution, we have not seen it anywhere.
You're not the right type of person, or you cannot be part of us. How do we deal with that?
It's a challenging question, and I have to be also very careful how I respond to that. So there is a process. The Quran is outlined for leadership. Compassion, getting closer to people, consulting them, then do what is best in the eyes of God.
When I first came on board, I was thinking, what's going to make me different as a leader? What's going to make Nasimco different from what we've done in the past?
Main challenges badane unity no che.
The youth, they have lot of talent, but sometimes they feel that our organization is running by the tradition.
What has driven you to service?
You are in Stanmore, you know the talent we have here. If we give them the space without the politics, they can take this community to the next level.
At the end of the day, once I finish my journey as a leader and my journey in this world, I want to go back there saying I've done justice to what I was here for and I was fair to everyone.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the KHOJA Connection podcast. I am your host, Durain Hirji, and today is a special day because we have together today a variety of amazing leaders. We've got 5 leaders from all over the world, and we're going to hear their insights, their nuggets. Especially, we're going to hear from the president of the World Federation, Safdar Bhai Jafar, and the president of KONNECTION, Salim Bhai Remtullah. And with them, we are going to talk about the challenges, the opportunities, what they've learned from being a great leader, and how have they led our community, our country, which is the KHOJA Shia Ishnashri Jamaats. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
salam.
Safdar Bhai and Salim Bhai, what a pleasure to have you on today on our super duper podcast, the KHOJA Connection podcast. I'm so thrilled to be here today, especially because this is the first time I've actually experienced being part of a World Federation meeting. So it was quite heavy. How do you feel having run like 2 days worth of it?
I feel relieved that 2/3 is over.
Wow. No, it takes a lot of bravery, courage, but also patience to run these kind of meetings with different people coming from different parts of the world. So why don't we start with introducing yourselves and telling, us all of you as who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So, Safdar Jafar, I was born in Mombasa, Kenya. And then I migrated, after finishing my O-levels, my parents migrated to Karachi for business. So I did my A-levels over there. And thereafter I went to UK. I came to UK for my university education, where I qualified as an actuary. So interested in Islamic studies. So I went to Qom for a few years. I came back and then I entered the actuarial profession. And thereafter I moved to Dubai 15 years ago. So that's really a summary of my journey.
Of your journey, mashallah.
Yes.
How about yourself, Salim Bhai?
So I was born in a very small country in Africa called Burundi. To be precise, it's a small village, Gitega. Not many people know where that is in the map. In fact, you can't even see it in the map, I think. And from there, when I was 2 years old, my family moved to Congo, the DRC now. And that's where I grew up. We lived for over 10 years in Belgium. And from Belgium then moved to the UK. And now I've been, alhamdulillah, living in the UK for all this time. And from a professional background, I'm an IT professional. But I don't practice. I just do IT now for the community and wherever I can or to help the kids. But apart from that, mainly dealing with real estate and and the community. Community takes a lot of time.
Community takes a lot of time. Absolutely. I mean, you both are, mashallah, coming from amazing educational background, and you've lived in European countries, and you would have seen the challenges that us as Muslims we face in the West and also different parts of the world. So what is it that the World Federation and obviously KHOJA, how do you even identify these kind of issues, and how do you sort of, think about changing things?
I guess the beauty of the KHOJA community globally is that we have structures, and we don't have countries. So the Jamaat is effectively Amarudesh, as we say. So this is where you meet the community at the center, at the mosque, at the Mambara, and you participate in community activities, madrasa, school, so on. And this is where you identify the challenges. And I think the challenges of the younger generation, in terms of the identity, the KHOJA identity, the faith, understanding of the faith, the fast-changing world, and the cultural norms and the traditional norms that we have continued, what is relevant, what is not, appreciating how the young people are growing up in this environment, and you can clearly see that. Parents also are struggling at times in upbringing their kids. So I guess we have this community structure that helps us identify the issues, and then that gets escalated to the communal level for discussion. And then we have such forums like the World Federation meeting that you attended, where these issues come up. Now, how do you deal with that? So, I mean, we are, our community is, alhamdulillah, quite a dynamic community in that sense that at least we talk about the issues. We may not have resolved the challenges, but at least we try and address that. So I think our structures allow us to identify that and then try and move towards rectifying it.
How about yourself?
I think Safdar Bhai is being very nice. I think
I
believe I believe that the KHOJA community will make sure there are challenges. You're not going to have to find out yourself. They will make sure there are challenges and how to come across those challenges. But I think Safdar Bhai is right that all these forums that we have and the process that we have in place is so well organized that I feel very proud to be KHOJA when I travel around the world and I meet other communities and I go to other centers. People always look up to us, and they say that the process and procedures you have and the way you identify the issues of your community and come up with a solution, we have not seen it anywhere. In fact, as you've seen, we discuss things, and process for us is so important. Our constitution, how we say things, the point of orders, and all those things is because as a community, we take these things very seriously. Therefore, our issues are also very serious to us, and we cannot hide them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think definitely I can say that I'm a proud KHOJA, and I think that has a lot to do with my parents and my father really putting that in, drilling that in everywhere, whether that's the language, whether that's the culture. And I think parents play a pivotal role in that KHOJA identity that we talk about. But the reality is that a lot of people are feeling disconnected from their KHOJA identity, especially the youth. And I wonder where the failure has been.
I feel there are a range of factors. Obviously, our kids, we grew up in Africa in an environment that are very cozy, protective. We KHOJAs have always been very protective, insular. When we converted from the Ismaili faith to the Isnachri faith, we were ostracized. There was a boycott against us, and in the 1870s, since then we become very protective. People wouldn't like penetrate. External parties coming and penetrating the community, not very open to others in the past. And, as the community has moved out, and after 72 exodus from Uganda and people migrating from Africa to Europe, America, Canada, and the rest of the Western world, the mindset has shifted. You're open to a bigger exposure environment where you have Shia Muslims, non-KHOJAs. And whilst our centers have helped preserve our faith and our identity within the KHOJA environment, a lot of alternatives have been created. So the moment our centers suddenly are not fit for purpose and the young people want to achieve either spirituality or refinement, or any other factor that connects them to their peers, they would go to a center that gives them that. And I think in that way, I feel that the connection with the KHOJAism is diminishing. I can give an example that, of my own kids, for example. My son is very active here. If he goes to community center and there's not much happening for the youths, as an example, he would go to the university Islamic societies or other channels where they can put their energy around, and that is pluralistic, Shia pluralistic. So that KHOJA identity suddenly begins to diminish if you are not careful. So I think this is where I think all of our centers really need to be fit for purpose, to be able to propagate the faith and other aspects, and at the same time make sure that the KHOJA identity implicitly gets integrated. And I think that relevance in our structures is our biggest challenge right now. And I think discussion came up today also.
Absolutely.
With the KHOJA heritage.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad that we have this KHOJA heritage introduced within our communities. And something that you mentioned, which is that youth now are going to different other centers. And perhaps because of a lack, like you said, of something within our own centers. I feel, and please correct me if I'm wrong, or perhaps you have a different perspective, I think we have a lack of inspirational and mindset setting sort of speakers, perhaps. We as human beings, we need inspiration. We have the Islamic elements, the fiqh element, or all of that. But what would you say, Salim Bhai?
So I think, we have some of the best and the kindest scholars that we have that I've seen from any other faith that we see outside, because generally when you go to any of a KHOJA center or at least a Shia center, the scholars are very kind, very nice, very approachable, so that side is quite good. I feel where they lack, because I get the feedback from my kids and some friends' kids, they feel that sometimes it can be quite monotone, and also they don't connect, like they haven't been trained to deliver the sort of message that the youth are used to these days, because they have access to social media. So they look at motivational speakers, they look at people out there who are speaking, and they don't understand that these are not the same type of people. These are people who are qualified in a certain aspect of the religion, but they're not specifically charismatic people out there to entertain you. And the kids are also looking for an entertainment from a scholar now, which is maybe there's an opportunity for us to train some of the scholars. I'm not saying into making religious into entertainment, but maybe to try and deliver things in a different way. And I see some alims in some centers who are younger and they've connected and they've played football with these kids. They can speak the lingo, so the kids can connect more, and others are more traditional, so therefore they find it difficult. However, I think, when you say where are the failings, I think there aren't really failings. I think the society at the moment is going through challenge around the world because of the phone that we hold. So there was a research done showing a kid of 18 years old today has the same exposure of somebody of our age had at 40. So now if you think about it, someone sitting there in a center with a phone and they're constantly going through things before arriving the mosque, and someone's delivering a lecture. As soon as he states a point, they check straight away. So many times I sit back in the car with my kids and they come and say to me, the alim said this, but he wasn't correct because he quoted this. Now imagine the responsibility on that poor scholar. He has to deliver a lecture, but he has to be so accurate, because on the other side, a kid is sitting there with a phone and they will check straight away whether the date was right, whether the history was right, and all that stuff. So this is where I feel we need to play that part as adults, to explain and to calm the kids down, because we didn't have those challenges. The mosque was entertainment for us. That's the only thing we had. Backyard, you play in your backyard, or when the parents say, let's go to the mosque, we're happy because we're going to meet the friends. Now kids have such a huge social life that mosque is maybe not in the top 10 priority list for them.
Yeah. I mean, I know you mentioned that we haven't got any failings, but I do believe that failure stands for first attempt in learning. So actually, the more failures, the better, because that's how you learn how not to do that again and how to do it better or differently. So what would you say is one of those? I would, instead of using the word failings, we'll use the word challenge. What would you say is a challenge that you faced being a leader? And what did you learn from that challenge?
I think the learning and leadership is an infinite process. It happens every day. Every day there's a new learning. But I think on this particular subject, I would say the biggest challenge that certainly we have faced in our term is trying to bring in more youths into the organization. I'm actually delighted that we had a couple of youths who, in fact, we had the highest number of youths this time at the conference. But again, it goes back to the earlier point that was mentioned that, this generation is that of instant gratification, looking at more of role models. That's why, the integrated way of faith, a manifestation of faith rather than the theory. And this is where our scholars obviously are trained in a professional way at the madrasa, at the hawza, and they have all that knowledge. But manifesting that into the practicalities of a role model is not an easy thing to do. Not every scholar is an extrovert. A lot of the scholars are introverts. And again, going back to that, so what do you do now? So maybe we need to think outside the box and have multiple scholars in the community, or different tiers where we have scholars of a high level who probably guide the younger scholars, or the budding scholars who are more sort of youth oriented, have some knowledge. They may not have all the knowledge, but they can integrate with the youths and then dilute those messages. So we have to think all across, we need to look at the digital part. That's why you saw in the conference today the online hawza that has attracted more than 200 people, and majority are youngsters. So there is a thirst of knowledge. It's not that it's not there, but the mode of the approach that is taken to get knowledge is pluralistic. So we need to be prepared across the board. It's not that there is no interest in that monologue. People definitely prefer dialogue. People prefer more of a social interactive way of learning. And that's why we created iCare, for example, the Center of Advanced Islamic Learning, where we need youth to come and discuss the undiscussable. If they ask tough questions in the mosque, people look down upon them, or the parents are there, the elders are there. So I think the environments need to change. Maybe more of outreach programs, trips, social interactions would be more helpful. So as a community, I think we need to think holistically. You can't just say that this is one solution. There are multiple solutions, and it's not one fit size for all.
Absolutely. And every problem has a solution, just like every feet has a sock. So
I also think, if I can add to that, we've been doing research within KHOJA to see what works, what doesn't work. And all the Jamaats have identified one thing. Sports is something that is working. Yes. It's working better than anything, in fact. The attendance when it comes to any sport event, be the weekly one, be the tournaments or anything, it's oversubscribed. Part of my Jamaat, I play badminton on a weekly basis. And if you haven't put your name down, you're on a waiting list. Now, I would love to see that for centers. Now, realistically, that's not going to happen, because when it comes to learning, people you always struggle to get attendance anywhere, not just a mosque. Even when it comes to personal development, you would have to go and ask people to join. Where it comes to sports, people naturally put it. So I said it in one of the meetings that, we need to maybe try and go on the field. We need to try and find a way to do some of this tabligh work in a subtle way in the background as well. Because that's also a platform to catch the attention, sometimes through our akhlaqs. So when I'm playing there, I'm a lot more conscious now, because they look at me as the leader of the community playing with them. So now I have to be a role model, which is very difficult because I'm competitive. I play, I don't like to lose. So now I ask myself, what do I do? And sometimes we play against somebody who's an alim. And then we end up, both of us, in a situation where we both hate to lose. Now, how do we interact, because all the kids are watching us? But that's our real challenge, I think. So that would be another one to really look at.
So it brings me nicely into the point you made during the conference, and you said that instead of wanting to change other people, change starts within yourself.
Yes.
So how have you managed to do that?
So for me, this was a big learning curve when it came to my relationship with my kids, at least. I felt I wasn't engaging enough because I was trying to be a parent the way I was brought up. That, I need to have the respect. When I'm there, then everybody comes and sits with me. If I say, let's eat, then we're going to eat. And I realized that this is not going to work because I'm disconnecting with the kid. Kids are not really enjoying sitting with me as much. Therefore, let me do things that they will enjoy. Let me bring myself to their level and try and understand their lingo and see the platforms they use and take interest in what are they using on the phone? What are they listening to? What do they want to do? And it was not easy, because I'm one of those generations that I feel I'm in a generation that didn't even see a computer and a phone, and now I'm using such an advanced technology. So I've seen both. But to do that transition has been very difficult to change because at times your natural character kicks in and you still want to be that parent that you've seen your father be, but you can't.
Absolutely.
But I've seen a huge difference in my relationship with my kids now since I made that effort.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that because actually that's something that I have applied as well. I was an unaware mother for many years until I became aware that it's me who needs to change. It's not the kids because they have nothing to do with anything. It's me who's the parent here. So if I may ask you the same sort of question as well, that, how has your personal development been through this leadership? Because I know when you came into this position, it wasn't the easiest of times, the way you came in and everything. You must have been thrown into the deep end straight. And how did that change you, or what are the changes you've had to make within yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you see, when you come to leadership, I feel your worldview does change. When you are in leadership, you have to deal with justice and fairness, and you can't be judgmental. If you're not a leader, you probably can make quick judgments about individuals. Here, you are at a different level where your bird's eye view, where people are different, and in that way, if you want to keep the community together and united, you have got to appreciate the different points of views. You may not agree with them, but you can't rebel against them. You can't sort of isolate them. You have to carry them with you, even if you don't like it. It's like a father, and I have two sons, and we know our kids are very different. I mean, they may be the same parents, but very different personalities. It's normal. This happens in many families. So likewise, in a community, it's a wider family, it's a bigger family. So you'll have someone with a completely different view to another one. So this is where, as a leader, what I have learned over a period of time is that do what is right. Consult as much as you can. And the Quran lays a very clear principle which I really like, where the Prophet was told, despite being the most learned of everybody, he was told, deal with people with leniency, overlook their mistakes if they make mistakes, and consult them. Consult every denomination. By the end of the day, do what is right and manage the rest. So I think when you come to leadership, this is where I have learned. So, for example, you've seen at the conference, we have got 6 regions, complete diverse views, and people are from the east, from the west, and you just have to listen to the views and try and appreciate where people come from and try and converge the diversity with a good intent that maybe they have a perspective, although you may not like it. So I don't know whether that helps.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, is the first thing I've noticed about you during these conferences was, and I said it to you earlier as well, how cool and collected you've been in the face of disagreements, in the face of different opinions, because it takes patience, it takes true leadership actually to be able to manage different worldviews, because as
Do you
you
wish
said,
sometimes you could tell us off when we give you a tough time?
Oh, if I took that way, the meeting will shut down pretty quickly. But you see, at the end of the day, you have to be very clear you want to get something out of it, because you can alarm and facilitate views, which you should. You should allow people to have diversity. Ultimately, you need to reach a conclusion. And if you can't reach a conclusion, then you need to tell the leaders that find me a solution. You're not allowing me to give you a solution, then find me a solution. So ultimately, you can't just be patient eternally. You can remain patient so long as people are leading you to a certain direction, but ultimately you have to make a call.
yeah, and I
and,
think
and that's where the challenge is, because otherwise the community would be left without clarity of thought.
yeah, so you're not actually leading by democracy in that sense where you're all agreeing, but you're taking people's opinions. But ultimately, you are the leader, so you've got to listen to everybody and then make that final call. But I love how sometimes when you're trying to make a decision, you empower other people. You are asking people for suggestions, and there's more ideas in many heads than in one. So having that, and then suddenly you've got clarity of mind as well, that okay, yeah, that could work, or that shouldn't.
No, my grandfather taught me something very interesting that I would never forget. And I was very young at that time, and one of the leaders in Mombasa came to see him and seek advice. He was a very wise individual, and he asked him ke leadership ni su quality hovi khape. A leader's quality is to identify the right person to do the right job. So that as a leader, you don't know everything. You cannot be an expert in each area. So when you need that advice and expertise, the best way is to grab that individual who has that expertise, pull that person in and let him do the work for you. And that, if you do and delegate and empower, it makes your life easier, and we can move forward.
But did you learn that the hard way?
Yes, I mean, sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes there is naivety where you just trust people. Sometimes you have a positive thought about everything, and then you can be taken for a ride.
Yes.
I think we both have learned that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, through this community work, there's a lot of politics that goes on, again, due to different worldviews or whatever it may be. How do you self-assess your intentions at all times? That this, I'm going to put my ego on the side, because ego is a big thing that comes up in every human being. It's not, but obviously being Muslims especially, we need to be assessing that. How have you managed to do that?
You see, when I took leadership, I pledged to myself that this is purely for the sake of Allah. And I'm not being idealistic. It's a reality check all the time. And if that means swallowing your ego, your anger, you have to do it. At times you forget about it, and then you have to remind yourself constantly that in fact je namyo ene gaimo, so sometimes you find that humility actually helps elevate yourself. And people appreciate that humility in leadership rather than imposing your view or your worldview on others. So, but it's a learning. It's a constant learning. It's a battle against shaitan, the whispers. And as you said, the politics is intense. So at times you have different groups. There are some genuine friends who will come and tell you, this is right, this is wrong. And there are those who would instigate you to move in a direction. This is where you judge what is in the best interest of the community. And if you lose that judgment, it can be very chaotic.
Absolutely. We are life learners. And I've got a really beautiful way of myself checking my ego, is that when I hear the word ego, is edging God out. So every time I say, if the ego comes, God's not there. God and ego can't be in the same place. So if I ask you the question on how have you managed to, especially, everyone's got ego, but somehow men have a bit more ego than women.
Absolutely. We are fallible people. We do. Sometimes things do get to us, and when we are pushed, we are challenged, especially when we feel it's unjust. You have situations where you feel the reality because you are on this side, and I have great respect for anybody who take leadership positions, because once you sit there as a leader, that's when you understand the real challenges. Because on the other side, people can call you anything they want to, but they don't realize your reality, because you face all those issues. But on top of that, you're sacrificing your family, your personal time.
Yes.
And your close ones go through so many tests because of your choice. And rightly so, because you have decided to take that role. So I'm not saying that people should feel sorry for us, but you have to sometimes reassess, what do you do? Are you doing it for the right reasons? Should you continue to do so? Should you stay patient? And I keep asking myself that. But I had heard something very important which had changed my perspective, because at times I used to get frustrated and I couldn't hide it. And there was something very important that said that, if your relationship is right, is important, let go of the argument. And if the argument is right, let go of the relationship. And many times I ask myself, the relationship is more important. The relationship with our community, with our people, is very important, because we are a very small community. We are very proud KHOJAs. We love this. You'll see, we would have the biggest arguments, but before we leave, we all hug each other. It's almost like we didn't even mean it. And that for us is worth a lot more. And I think only true leaders will understand the value of that, and not letting or reacting to anything. And that's why I, over the time, gain a lot of respect for Safdar Bhai. At the beginning, I used to think to myself, what's this guy going to do for the community? Do I really want him as my leader and all that? But that's because I did not know him. But when I started working with him and I knew him, I realized how wrong I was. I realized what a good leader he is and what a good listener he is, because he's got a very tough job. Let's agree with it. It's not an easy job. It's the highest position that the KHOJA community has. So we're not an easy community to deal with. So to have the highest position and be patient and be quiet and go through what you've seen at the meeting, hats off to him.
Absolutely. It's like being the president of a country, like you said.
Absolutely.
This is our country. This organization is our country. So it's like leading a country, essentially. Well, you've gone through challenges, Salim. What would you say is one of your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge, I'm very accepting of everything that happens. And, sometimes it's misconstrued. I like to just mix with anybody. I'm one of those people who just see good in everyone. And unfortunately, sometimes when you're trying to be good to people, they think you either associate with them, or you are part of them, or you think like them. And this has always been my battle. And I always pick good in people, because in my life I've always learned from everyone, and I continue to do so. And I just want to stick to that. I just feel at the end of the day, once I finish my journey as a leader and my journey in this world, I want to go back there saying I've done justice to what I was here for, and I was fair to everyone, whether they were on my side or not. I did the best of what I could. So I don't want to use challenge. I would just say learning. They're all learning for me.
It's all learning, absolutely. So Safdar Bhai, if I come back to you and if I ask you, where do you see our community in 20 years from now?
I believe in my community, for sure. I think we are very fortunate that we belong to the KHOJA Shia International community. I think amongst the Shia community, I genuinely believe we are the best community. I have traveled to more than 50 Jamaats globally, and I have just seen the spirit of serving at all segments of the society, cognizance of our responsibility to our Lord and His creation, and a lot of humanitarian services. I mean, our community is full of philanthropy. Despite whatever we have been through, what motivates me most is our community. It's a dynamic community, and I think we have to thank Allah that we were born within the KHOJA world. Your father has been a great mentor for me, a man who believes in the KHOJA heritage, the wisdom, the culture, and I think I only wish our young people appreciate that, and I'm sure they will over time. So I'm very optimistic despite the challenges. Of course, we need to address these challenges, because if we don't, we will get diluted. We might even lose our faith. As a worst case scenario, we could be an endangered species in that context if we are not careful. But what I see across the board, across all the regions, despite the ups and downs, there is progression, there is cognizance. People are at different levels. Probably the level of maturity are different. So there are certain regions where their recognition is still not there, whereas others, because of the challenges that are expedited, are recognizing, and there is a wavelength difference. That's what we see in the conference here as well, when you talk about Islamic solutions, for example. But I see ultimately there is progression. So I believe our structures help us moving in that direction. Personally, I am optimistic. The pace, we might go through some turbulences, because right now there are many faith-based challenges, and we are losing people. I'm looking at eye care. Sorry, I'm mixing subjects now, but I'm trying to make it more relevant. If you look at eye care, some of the challenges were to do with imamat and the belief in the infallibility of our imams. Now the challenges have gone to tawheed, and we have agnostics and people even who have become atheists and within the community. And this is why, even if you look at what iCare has been doing, last year we had a seminar in Africa to do with imamat and things to do with the infallibility of imam. This time, the conference in Toronto was on God centricity. So completely different subject. So I think we need to have that constant drive.
Yeah.
And so long as we are progressing in that way, I am optimistic.
Our youth, they really want to know. They really are thirsty for knowledge.
True. Very true. Very true.
They want to know themselves. They really are looking for an identity, looking for themselves. And actually, we've got an advantage in that the need is there.
Yes.
But, and I think you mentioned that as well at the conference, is that we unfortunately have certain parts of the community that is ostracizing those people who perhaps want to learn but are not following the religion to the T. It could be that they're not wearing hijab, or it could be that they're not, praying, or it could be, but they want to, they just don't know how to, they just need the right latching on. How do we deal with that, dealing with them with compassion, dealing with them with the Rahman and the Rahim attributes that Allah's favorite names, because that's how he starts with every surah. How have we lost that, and how can we bring that back into our alims or our elders or our youngsters or our parents or whoever it is? Bring them back with love, rather than you're not the right type of person or profile, therefore you cannot be part of us. Sorry, I know it's a bit of a challenging question,
it's a challenging question, and I have to be also very careful how I respond to that, so that there is a balance that is appropriate.
Of course.
There is no doubt, and again, I'm going to wear my sort of theological hat a little here. Please. Because it has a theological connection. I mean, the verse of the Quran that I have always kept as my base, especially at leadership level right now, is the famous verse in the Quran about the Prophet, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet, بِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, it is because of the mercy of Allah that you are lenient to them. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا, if you are hard-hearted with them in Makkah, لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ, they would have all gone away from you. So the Prophet dealt with a lot of leniency and mercy to attract them to Islam. Otherwise, Allah says they would have run away. But He doesn't stop there. The verse is profound. It continues to say, فَعْفُ عَنْهُمْ. They have made a lot of mistakes, overlooked their mistakes. No. فَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ, forgive them. No, even that's not enough. The Prophet is told, وَشَّاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. They have gone against you. Some of them even conspired against you. You're still working hard to get them towards the faith and God. But seek their advice in public affairs, not in religious affairs. The Prophet is the most knowledgeable. But in day-to-day running the community, the Prophet is told, seek advice from the experts. And then the Quran says, فَإِذَا أَزَمْتَ, now that you have sought that advice, you reach your decision and have faith in God. So there is a process that the Quran has outlined for leadership. Compassion, getting closer to people, consulting them, then do what is best in the eyes of God. So if you are to simplify that and explain that in the context of community, you have a diversity in community. When you are a leader, it's like kids. There could be one kid who is very steadfast in his prayer. In the morning, you don't have to tell him he wakes up for prayer. It could be another same kid at home. You have to wake him up 10 times before he wakes up. But you are a parent, so you're compassionate and you try and bring them in that direction. So as a leader, you will have secularists, you will have highly religious individuals, you will have people in the mainstream. Your role is to support all of them. Now, this is a challenge because we are a faith-based community, we are a mainstream community, and when it comes to leadership, there is an expectation that the leader is a role model. So when it comes to like you said, when you go to play sports, you suddenly become a role model. So you said, hang on, do I have all the attributes? It's tough. And you say, you try your best. Same thing, you try your best. So when you come to leadership and you're a woman, obviously there's expectation that you are fulfilling the minimum requirements, the hijab is there. That is how our community aspires to. But at the same time, if there are people who want to come and support, serve you, how do you make sure that the community's role modelship sustains and at the same time you help others get there? Because one day that individual who serves can get even better than the others. And I have seen these issues in our community recently in a number of jamaats. And I know we discussed this a few months ago somewhere else. I won't name the jamaat, where we had this challenge and it was really getting difficult. Allah blessed us that issue got resolved. This time when I met, say, Sistani, and I mentioned it in my speech about the issue of Aziz Sachedina and how that matter was resolved, and I was surprised that when I met Agha, we hardly had 10 minutes and he referred to saying that I was very happy that you brought him back into the fold of the community and we exercise leniency in the sense that that unity of the community is very important. So it's a delicate balance. Leadership has the responsibility. You're not sending a wrong signal, but at the same time, you cannot isolate them.
Exactly.
So whenever people come and say, bedin che ke nati karto din sarki rite, to we say compassion thi kaam karo. Kale tamarathi better thai shake che. But at the same time, people are watching you. Ke maro leader che, I have some expectations. So you understand what I'm saying?
There's a sweet balance between that, and then there's authenticity. There's what you feel is your principle as well. There's all of that. There's obviously the faith element. It's a hard position to be in for sure. Just a couple of last questions before we end this beautiful conversation that we're having. What has driven you to service?
What has driven me to service is the potential of my community. I know this community can do the best. I have been attending meetings from a young age. When I was at university, I used to go and attend. Marhumul Azkar I used to go to those meetings and just sit and listen. And I saw the potential and I always felt, why aren't we going further? When we have the potential, the capability, the resources, the talent. And I came with naivety, but I thought we can change this quickly. And that was really my driver. And I genuinely felt, and after the first term, I believe we can get there. The talent we have, you are in Stanmore, you know the talent we have here. You have so many professionals. And if we give them the space, without the politics, they can take this community to the next level. It is unfortunately the politics that keeps them away. They get disenchanted. If we, the leadership, at a collective responsibility, provide that space, open it up, let them make mistakes. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. Allow them to flourish. They have professionalism more than we do. Let them bring it. Let them be critiques. And let's not see a critique as that I'm bad. It's a critique is a sign of improvement. I think we can change this community for the better and attract the best. So that has been my driver, really. Amazing. And I stick to that.
Amazing. I love that. That's beautiful. What about you, Brother Salim?
So, there's, for every human being, we have a conscious, like a subconscious. So we make conscious decisions of doing something, and then there's also the subconscious. And this plays a big part in how we get involved within the community. And for my part, at least, the subconscious was always there because I watched my father be president of a community for 15 years in Congo. My mother was a chairlady for many years. And at that time, they never sat us or told us, you'd have to become a leader, you have to become a volunteer, none of that. But that was our life. So we used to watch that. And the subconscious used to watch that always. And you'll see similarities, maybe to yourself as well and many other people. The reason why you are all involved, your subconscious knew what your parents used to do for the community, and you will continue to do that. So it is very important for us to do that as a gift to our children, to show them that how much we're involved within the community. So that was the subconscious. The conscious bit was how I started this journey and how I wanted to get involved was again through sports. So my only involvement with the community many years ago was through MAMT. So I'm a big tennis fan as well. So I used to always look for opportunities to get involved within tennis as a community. And then I ended up being a coordinator for MAMT. And when I did that, I felt, this is my time to pay back to the community. So I became a volunteer at Peterborough Jamaat. And then I thought, I'm criticizing everything, but why not just come and do it? So I decided to do a management committee and then president and so on. And then since that, it never stopped. But I always remember that deep down, it was my dad.
Yeah.
Because I used to watch him and I only felt satisfied the day I became the president. And I remember I went back to see my dad and I told him, I'm elected now. And it was almost like I wanted that seal of approval that I've done what you did.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're going to be proud. So there's both those.
I can see a trend here, a pattern of role modeling, which has been the case for a lot of volunteers and a lot of leaders that have led thanks to their parents leading, the dedication, what they've seen, and, like you said, be the change that you want to see in the world. So there's a lot of hope that, inshallah, because all of your parents and all of our parents have served, alhamdulillah, our kids in that respect, they will, inshallah, continue the tradition. At least that's the hope, inshallah. Which is a beautiful hope to have.
Allah gives progenies.
Exactly.
If the parents or even the grandparents or even forefathers have done something good, it comes down the generation, and that's a guarantee.
Wow, that's amazing. What does connection mean? This podcast is KHOJA Connection. I've already asked Salim by that, but I haven't asked you the question. What does connection mean for you? What comes to mind?
Is it in the context of this program or?
Anything that comes to mind for you, the word connection itself.
Connection is where the heart talks to the other heart. The tongue is only a means to that. And the authenticity of what you speak in that connectivity comes when the heart connect to each other. That's the way.
Amazing. So a soul-to-soul connection.
Soul-to-soul connection.
I love that. That's really a beautiful way of putting it. And last question, what would you say to your community today? What is it you need from them? What do you need from your community to do? How the community has an expectation on the leaders. What are the leaders' expectation on the community?
You want to start? Or?
Yeah, sure. So I would say to the community, be proud KHOJAs, because this is a faith-based institution and faith is going to be there. We cannot disassociate with it. However, our identity is very, very important. And I cannot emphasize enough to our community to teach their children about how proud we are to be KHOJAs. And this will only happen if they sit with them and explain to them. They cannot just expect to say, we're KHOJA Shia Nashi and that's it. That's not how it works. They need to nurture them. Nurturing is a big part of getting this community to grow, because otherwise we are going to be KHOJAs there, but soon it's not going to matter to the community or to those kids. And I make sure I tell the kids all the time, sometimes they don't understand, but that's fine. I keep emphasizing, I keep anything I find that I can share with them, that I can tell them we're proud KHOJAs. I don't lose that opportunity, and I say to them. So that's an advice I would give the community, that make sure we do that, because that is what that has brought us close to our Lord. These institutions, these KHOJA institutions that we are so proud of, is constantly taking us towards our journey closer to our Lord.
Thank you. What about yourself?
I mean, there are many things that can be said over here. I think the community's connection to its institutions, I feel, is very important. And the role that parents can play in particular, I mean, there is always an expectation from the community that leadership or jamaats or regions are going to do something. And they are all volunteers at the end of the day. You can only do your best. We discussed the madrasa today, the Madrasa Center of Excellence. We have 16,000 kids. But how many hours do the kids spend at the madrasa? They spend most of the time either at home or at schools. So the role of the parent being a role model itself, plays a very prominent role in the future. If the parents can engage more with the community, take more interest in the communal activities, support in volunteering, giving their ideas, and engaging with leadership, I think will help us enhance our connectivity.
Connectivity, absolutely. So what I've taken away from this is that actually there's a partnership between the leaders and the parents, the grassroots. There's a 50-50 given, or 60-40, whatever you want, but it's, we want to, as leaders, make a difference as long as you work with us as well. So there's a buy-in from everybody, which I think that's all relationships are made that way, isn't it? So that was a beautiful conversation. Thank you, both of you, for blessing us with your presence and growing through conversations. Thank you again.
My name is Amin Nasser. I am Africa Federation Chairman, and I am the member of Saint-Denis Reunion Jamaat.
My name is Arif Jaxi. I'm from New York, USA. And I'm part of the New York Jamaat, Sijni Al Mahdi Center, which is in Hicksville, New York. And I'm the current president of Nasimco.
Suhail Burani, India Federation President-elect.
I became a community leader because when I was young, I was very passionate to serve the community. So, for example, I was Professor Gujarati Madrasa, and after I was Assistant Secretary in my Jamaat, and I was member of Madrasa organization, and in 2011 I was elected president of Union of Association KHOJA Shia Isnashri of Reunion, who federate 4 Jamaats, and 11 years I was the president, and in 2022 I became the president, chairman of Africa Federation. So I was thinking that is my duty to serve the community, and I was very passionate to become leader and to give my community to serve to be by leadership.
So I've always wanted to be different, and I feel my purpose is to look outside the box, to really look into a scenario and finding a different path, because if everyone's running, walking that same path, then you're not any different. So it's really about making people think outside of the box within the realm of Islam. That's the boundary you cannot cross. We all know that, but at the same time, let's see if there's another solution to this issue or this problem or this, avenue that we're trying to solve. Maybe there's a different way of seeing things, So if there is a different option, different way, like for example, when I first came on board, I was thinking, what's going to make me different as a leader? What's going to make Nasimco different from what we've done in the past? We were the first ones in 4 months after I came on board, and I'm not taking any credit for this. It's just an idea that came up. We were the ones who created an app, and this was an app that was created 6 years ago. And that app included, things that people, there was always a challenge of getting directly to the grassroots. We always went to the Jamaats and say, can you pass this message on to the Jamaats for the grassroots for us, the members for us? And there's always that disconnect, because they're busy, they don't have that time, and we are expecting them to do more. And so how do you solve that issue where you can go directly to the grassroots? So this app is actually in your pocket. You can send a news message, you can send the alert of the moon sighting, you can, the namaz timings, etc. So that was actually something that I think was a breakthrough for Nasimco at that point. And so just similar to what I said in terms of thinking outside the box, think of different ways of engaging your people, and maybe they will be attracted to it.
આ ખિદમત તરફ પ્રેરણા મને મળી છે, એટલે હું ઇન્ડિયા ફેડરેશનનો પ્રેસિડેન્ટ, એક તમે નામ કદાચ સાંભળ્યું હશે, ગુલામ અલી ભાણજી બાપુ, એનાથી ઇન્સ્પાયર થઈ અને મેં એને કામ કરતા જોયા છે. હી વોઝ અ ટેક્સી ડ્રાઈવર, અને ટેક્સી ડ્રાઈવરમાંથી એણે જે મદ્રેસા માટે, ગરીબ લોકો માટે, હાઉસિંગ માટે વર્લ્ડના ડોનર્સને બધાને ઇન્ડિયા સુધી લાવી અને જે ટ્રાય કરી અને બધા માટે કામ કર્યું, એનાથી ઇન્સ્પાયર થઈ અને મને આ કામ કરવાની ઈચ્છા થઈ, પ્રેરણા મળે છે એનાથી, ગુલામ અલી ભાણજી બાપુથી.
Challenges, we have challenges, for example, in religious challenges, because I see all people, youngsters are very free in their thinking, so lot of questions comes, and maybe sometimes they try to contest the values of religious. So I think it's the big challenges. We have social, economic challenges, because the community has a lot of expectation, and if we see the first step, the organization Africa Federation is religious organization, but I see expectation from members, a lot of expectation, like mini state, education, economic, social, youngster needs sports, etc., etc. So we have the challenges we have to face, but I'm confident.
I think the one of the bigger challenges is the issue of the LGBTQ, whereby there's a lot of there's some progress in the schooling system, especially in Canada, is where they're seeing this, and it's something where now we're exploring options of homeschooling, of adding schools within our centers, etc. We just had an Nasimco conference this last week, and that was one of the issues that was raised. And we feel that we need to have more of a secure educational system within our Islamic environment, where we can somewhat control the narrative. So that's something that we're kind of trying to look into. The other part is, I would say, like everybody says, it's the youth engagement as well, right? How do you involve them? And being that I was, I started young, I've always had the back of the youth. I've always felt that, try to push them in whichever way I can to serve. Just be glad that they're there. If they're there and they're gonna try to do, and if they're even interested for a bit, then just capitalize on that and take that on. So I think those are the main two that I feel.
ચેલેન્જીસ મારા રિજનમાં કરતાં દરેક રિજનમાં મેઇન આપણો જે છે ચેલેન્જીસ બધાને એ યુનિટીનો છે. બધા પોતાના ઈગોને લીધે સંગઠિત નથી થઈ શકતા. યુનિટીનો અભાવ છે. પ્લસ અહીંયા અમારે એજ્યુકેશન, હાઉસિંગ, ઇન્ડિયામાં એજ્યુકેશન, હાઉસિંગ અને યુનિટી મેઇન. ઇન્ટરનલ પોલિટિક્સ જે છે એ એક મોટું ચેલેન્જીસ છે.
I think youth are very passionate. We have the youth, they have lot of talent, but sometimes they think that our organization is running by the tradition. So they have this thinking, but is our duty to not to change, because the organization is religious, but how to running, how to attract the youth, explain them that the first step of our organization is religious, but we have possibilities to accommodate that. So they come in the mosque, for example, and we give them some possibilities that they express their sentiment and try to explain them that our religion is not only based on the tradition.
યુથ સાથે હું એ રીતે એન્ગેજ થઈશ કે હું આ બધા એજ્યુકેશન બોર્ડ, મેડિકલ બોર્ડ, સ્પોર્ટ્સ બોર્ડ, જેટલા બોર્ડ બનાવીશ એ બધામાં 50% ઇન્વોલ્વમેન્ટ યુથનું રાખીશ અને 50% લીડર્સ ને વડીલો, જેનાથી વડીલોને પાસેથી યુથને શીખવા મળશે અને યુથનું જે પેલું છે જોશ, એનાથી કોમને ફાયદો થશે.
Let's keep the unity. It's not easy because we have the diversity of thinking, and it is normal because when we are in one organization, human organization, so lot of ideas, lot of area people are not agree, but our duty and as a leader, it's my first duty to keep unity. So I listen. If I'm not agree with them, but I try to explain, and sometimes I try to keep out my decision and postpone until the time my decision will be accepted. So for the unity is important, and the most quality the leader has is to keep unity, because without unity it is impossible to run one organization, because if your decision is not accepted or not understood by the members, it's not possible. And in religious organization, charity organization, the unity is very important, because if unity are here, confidence are here.
It's a lot about engaging people. It's about to kind of find out what they're looking for by coming to the center. Just by opening the door and turning on the lights and serving food, that's great sawab. That's great sawab to serve, great sawab to even come to the mosque. But at the end of the day, there's something more that every individual yearns. It could be the recitation of Quran. It's to learn maybe the tafsir. It's maybe to get more of an education after you graduate from madrasa. It's about maybe serving in madrasa. So it's really about trying to find out what their needs are, and then by finding that out, you actually give them what they're looking for. And once they do that, I feel that, and they're being heard, is when they get to be more closer and therefore more united at the end of the day. It's really about, like, even in a conference. There was one time that I was chairing a conference. Usually I don't, I get a little nervous, but so I have my secretary chair, and then I would answer any questions that are pertinent, business like. But when I chaired that conference, I gave everybody a chance to speak, because if you don't speak up and say your mind, then where else are you going to get that chance? So I gave him a fair chance. I didn't cut him off. I said, speak as much as you want, but just be mindful that we have a time limit as well. So by being listened to, by just hearing people out, I think they kind of open up and they're more receptive to getting back more and being more united in that sense.
યુનિટીને મજબૂત કરવા માટે મને લાગે છે તમે એક ગુજરાતીમાં કહેવત છે સાંભળી હોય તો, કે આપણે એક બુઢો માણસ હતો, એ મરવા પડ્યો હતો, તો એને એના 3-4 છોકરાઓ હતા, બધાને બોલાવ્યા અને એક લાકડી આપી અને કીધું કે આ લાકડી તોડી નાખો. બધાએ તોડી નાખી લાકડી, અને પછી બીજી એક લાકડી આપી કે આ લાકડીને બાંધી દો અને હવે તોડો, તો કોઈ ના તોડી શક્યું. તો જો આપણે સંગઠિત થશું તો આપણે કામ કરી શકશું. તો યુનાઇટેડ થઈને, સંગઠિત થઈને કામ કરશું તો કોઈ આપણને નહીં હરાવી શકે.
Connection mean for me that confidence and relationship, and try to meet and to involve in the organization.
Similar to being engaged, really. It's about seeing what similarities that you have and really honing into that. It's about trying to find things that will benefit both of you. Like, for example, you find somebody that's like you. It's about connecting with the same values, and so because the KHOJAs are from a similar background, we have the similar languages that we speak. We have of course the Shia in us that unites us. I think that's what makes us all connected, and it's more like a family where we're all one, and we can speak basically the same language in all kinds of facets.
આપણે ખોજા એકબીજા સાથે કનેક્ટ થઈએ, જેવી રીતે વર્લ્ડ ફેડરેશન કામ કરે છે બધા રિજન સાથે કનેક્ટ થઈને, એ રીતે આપણે ઇન્ટરનલ બી રિજન બી જમાત ગ્રાસ રૂટ બધા એકબીજા સાથે કનેક્ટ થઈ અને કામ કરી શકીએ.
હું હેમ્બલ સલાહી દઉં છું કે તમે લોકો પહેલાં પોતા ઉપર ભરોસો કરો. આપણે ખોજા છે, શિયા ઇસ્નાશ્રી છે, આપણે એટલા જાજા નથી, તો પોતા ઉપર બિલીફ કરો. પછી પોતાનો આપણી જે સંસ્થા છે એના ઉપર કોન્ફિડન્સ રાખો. કારણ કે મને એમ દેખાય છે ઘણી વખત કે બધાય અહીંયા છે, પણ ઘણી વખત ડાઉટ બહુ આવી જાય છે. તો આપણે હવે ડાઉટ ના રાખીએ. જો આપણે કોન્ફિડન્સ હોય આપણામાં ને કોન્ફિડન્સ રાખશું સંસ્થા ઉપર, તો આપણે આગળ જઈ શકીએ છીએ. કારણ કે આપણા પાસે બધી ખૂબીઓ તો છે આપણા પાસે. તો પહેલાં અલ્લાહ તઆલાની જે આપણી એના ઉપર યકીન માન્યતા છે, પછી આપણા પાસે 14 માસૂમ છે, આપણા પાસે રોલ મોડલ છે, અને આપણી કોમ્યુનિટી એક નરમી કોમ્યુનિટી છે, પેશનેટ કોમ્યુનિટી છે, અને ખોજા કોમ એકદમ ડિવોટ કોમ છે કે જ્યારે કોઈ પણ કાંઈ પણ માંગણી કરવા આવે તો મોટા દિલવાળી કોમ્યુનિટી છે. તો આપણે આપણા ઉપર ભરોસો રાખીએ તો મને યકીન છે કે કોમ્યુનિટી યુનિટીની સાથે એકદમ આગળ જઈ શકશે, ઇન્શાઅલ્લાહ.
Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. This is the KHOJA Connection podcast, growing through conversations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is run by KONNECTION, and press the notification button so that you can get all of our podcasts, and they are one after another amazing, exciting conversations.